We're rolling. Damage Plan MMA podcast. I'm Jason. As always, my co-host, the voice of MMA in Utah, Mr. Zack Partridge.
What up, dog?
Switching it back old school style today.
We had to do it on a Tuesday today.
Yeah. We life took a hold yesterday and we got a little busy.
Yesterday was crazy.
Yeah.
Had a little too much going on.
A lot going on yesterday.
Yeah.
So I got to start off the podcast. I have a funny story.
Okay.
It's kind of a funny story. So my daughter, as you know, moved from Cottonwood Heights to Magna, right?
Right.
Which, for those of you listening, which there's only one person listening, it's probably Hillary. Magna's probably the other side of the railroad tracks, right? For her. She's the only blonde-haired, blue-eyed kid in her school. Anyways, she's had problems with this girl, right? She's kind of picking her on her little, just kid stuff, nothing bad. But the girl has been sending her these videos saying she's gonna like beat her up and all this stuff. And,
oh my gosh.
And Shaylee's very strong. Like she's staying strong. Like she's not folding, but she's having a hard time with it because she's used to being friends with everybody. Well, one of the videos, the girl says, "I'm gonna squash you like a cockroach, a white cockroach." And Shaylee says in bold letters, "That's racist." I'm like, yeah. I didn't even tell her this. I'm like, that's my girl.
That's racist.
That's racist. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Move your mic a little closer. It's a little echoey in there.
Oh, it's like in my grill, bro. Does that sound better?
I don't think your mic's on.
Oh, it is.
Is it?
How about now?
It sounds the same.
Oh boy.
It just sounds real echoey in there.
Oh, I wonder if it's on my computer mic.
It's on your computer mic, I think. So yeah, anyways, that was apparently they were friends again on Friday because I picked her up from this girl's house. And now yesterday, they're not friends anymore. So typical 6th grade.
How's that sound?
Oh, you sound freaking amazing.
There we go.
Sounds like you've done this before.
I'm not a tech genius, but
so yeah, my daughter's going through that tween,
bullies.
Yeah, I mean, it's kid stuff. I mean, at first I'm like, I'm going to go to the school. And then I'm like, you know what?
Just let her figure it out.
Let her have a little adversity in life. She's strong. She's strong. I mean, her mom's read all the text messages from the girl, and all of Shaylee's replies are like, the girl's like, just being petty, accusing her of telling stuff. And Shaylee's like, I didn't say that. Don't lie to me about me and all this stuff. I'm like, all right, good job. Like,
how'd it go?
Yeah, she was having a little hard time last night and had to talk to her stepmom. She didn't want to talk to mom or dad. She wanted to talk to her stepmom and get a little advice. So yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, but it's your time's coming, brother. Hunter's almost at that age.
Oh, he's too nice. True story. He got picked on at school once and he got thrown to the ground.
Yeah,
got like mud on. Remember, he's like trained jujitsu for
over
2-3 years now. And I'm like,
yeah.
And kickboxing. I'm like, so did you punch him in the face? No, Dad. Fighting's against the rules. I'm like, oh, for crying out loud.
So who's going to be the little rule breaker? Quinn,
for sure.
Quinn's
hands
the rule
down.
breaker.
Not even close.
See, that's how Shaylee is. When I first asked her, I told her, I said, you can punch her in the face. And she said, I can't, Dad. I'll get in trouble. I said, no, you won't.
Not with me, you won't.
Not if she hits you first. Or I told her, I said, my rule is if she comes at you like she wants to fight and she gets one arm's distance away, you have every right to punch her right in the nose. And I said, one of two things is going to happen. She's going to leave you alone and you guys are going to be best friends, or she's going to whoop your butt and you're going to be respected because you stood up to her. So there you go.
One of the two.
Either way, it's going to be a lesson learnlet's yeah, we had an eventful weekend in MMA and boxing and a little drama.
Let's
what do you want to start with?
I mean,
what are we starting with?
No and ifs or buts. The highlight of the weekend was the boxing.
It was a fun fight.
No, that wasn't just a fun fight. That was when Fury dropped Wilder in the 4th.
Yeah.
And then Wilder dropped Fury in the 5th. That's when it was like we're watching like one of the all-time great heavyweight fights.
Was it though?
I'm not saying it's but I mean, what, top 10? Undoubtedly.
Was it competitive other than those 2 rounds?
it had the good drama. Like anytime
That it did. I agree.
anytime Wilder fights, it has drama because he's usually fighting with just power, but he's fighting better boxers.
Yeah.
And Fury was the first person in one to go down and get back up. But then he drops him twice in one round, and you're like, oh my gosh, Fury might actually lose. And every time he looked tired, but then would throw that right with bad intentions, you had to go, oh, you kind of held your breath every time because you're like,
Yeah.
what if this is the one? Well, what if this is the one? We saw it when he fought that big Cuban lefty Ortiz. When he knocked him,
Ortiz.
he knocked him out in the 11th, 12th round, something like that too. Like late
Yeah,
into
it was
the
really
fight.
late.
Late. He was losing on that scorecard and he put him out late.
Yeah.
So it's like the anticipation of like, we could see history here, and you were seeing history either way. Cause I mean, Fury's such an enticing, charismatic. I mean, he's got it all, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't have the model body. You know, he doesn't look like the Klitschko's or like Mike Tyson or
Joshua,
Lennox Lewis
Anthony
or Anthony Joshua. Yeah, Anthony Joshua looks like he was some Greek god chiseled out of, chiseled out of stone. You know, he just looks like a guy at the gym that hits a heavy bag every once in a while and moves around a little. And he's the best heavyweight boxer in the world, hands down. And then Wilder. And he's so fascinating to me, even to the stance of like not even wanting to like squash it at the end.
Yeah.
Fury. That's just fascinating to me because it's like people are like, oh, it's this and that. It's like, no, that mindset and that dog that he has in him is why he wouldn't go down. He lasted probably an extra 4 rounds than he should have.
We have a mutual friend that's like that.
Who's that?
That's it. I won't say his name, but I don't think he takes beatings like that, but he doesn't want to be friends right after the fight type of guy. Yeah, but throw his name out there, but as a competitor, it's like,
I don't
if you're in that moment. Yeah. I don't hate that at all.
Well, and to that same guy, that same credit, he's like, don't try and shake my hand right after. Like,
exactly.
Give me
that's what I'm talking about.
If Tyson reached out to him and sent him a message right now, like, hey,
100%.
Thank you for the trilogy. That was incredible. You know, maybe Wilder just gives the old thumbs up or something. I don't know.
Doubt it.
Good for him though.
I've been reading it all over social media, and I thought the same thing Saturday night. I went into this fight thinking this guy's just going to make excuses. He's going to get dropped and he's going to quit. And that's what I thought he was going to do. That guy has zero quit in him. Zero. He was still trying to get up after taking those shots. Like,
and doesn't him doing that kind of give him the I don't know. I think that's where he's coming from when he fired his coaches after they threw in the towel.
Oh yeah. You can see
like,
it now.
No. He's like, no. Like, I'm not done till I'm done.
That guy,
and you guys threw in the towel, and
for as many as excuses that he's made over the years,
which he's made a ton,
he's made a ton. You cannot take away the fact that guy is a freaking warrior, man. He will go down swinging no matter what. And hey,
as a fan of combat sports, we'll ride with that guy all day long.
100%. I would have loved.
It's like Brian Ortega, right?
Yeah, same.
Even though he loses, you still become a bigger fan of his.
The one thing that I noticed, like, the guy has an enormous right hand. He will knock out anybody with that right hand. It's almost like when you watch him, it's like, how much were you paying attention to your coaches? Yeah, because your footwork is freaking horrible. Like, can you imagine if that guy just paid attention and just knew how to box? Like, keep the distance, stick that jab out.
He did it at the beginning.
He did it in the first round, but he looked a little awkward. Like, his footwork looked a little bit better than mine, which isn't saying it's because my footwork is horrible. But no, I mean, can you just imagine if that guy had just started boxing since he was a kid? Because he started late in life, right? Didn't he start like in his late 20s, early 20s?
Early 20s. So he was playing football at the University of Alabama.
Right. Yeah,
and then he quit and took a truck driving job for working for Budweiser and then found a boxing gym to still get his work in. And then within 18 months was wearing a bronze medal in the Olympics.
Can you imagine if that guy?
So another conversation piece.
Yeah.
This is, for the record, this is what's going to happen when elite athletes start in combat sports young. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but there aren't a lot of elite athletes in combat sports.
Yeah.
Most of them are playing basketball, baseball, football, soccer.
Yep.
What happens when elite athletes pick up combat sports at 6 years old?
You're starting to see the early signs of that right now.
But you know what? I actually don't think we are. I think
it's coming.
There are some very good athletes, but a lot of those guys, I mean, there are guys in the UFC that skill wise, they're building the skills now, but they're just like, look at how fast Eric Anders is caught up and like the name he's made for himself in MMA. Like Kevin Holland, he's made a good name. He's not an elite athlete. Like, go through the UFC champions. None of them are really elite. Like GSP was an elite athlete, I think.
Usman's elite athlete.
Usman is an elite athlete. John Jones, elite athlete. We're getting it, the more we see that these elite athletes creeping into combat sports and not just picking it up after being done with another sport. That's what I want to see. Usman, right?
Yeah.
Even Henry Cejudo and those guys, they picked up MMA after wrestling was over. And that's a nice transition. You know, it transitioned.
Great, yeah.
Wrestling transitions better than anything else. But what happens when Cole Faust, right? You get those guys that have been doing kickboxing while they're growing up wrestling. That's where, when I say you're seeing it, like, we might barely be scratching the surface.
That's what I mean.
But I think the elite athletes are still playing football. I think
because that's
still playing basketball.
That's where the money is. But just look how much the sport has evolved from the early days of, you know, Gracie coming in his gi and you know, he's fighting some guy in street clothes, basically. You know, it's.
Well, I got into it. Sorry, go ahead. Anyway.
I was just going to say, you at this point, and we've talked about it on the podcast, you got to up your game nowadays. You can't just go in there on a 8-week camp and expect to go in there and beat some of these guys. You know, you're going to get lined up. I can tell you right now, if you're an out-of-state guy coming into Utah and you're not prepared, any one of these guys from any one of these gyms, Horns, Agima's, your gym, the Team Link, Koa, all these gyms, you bet your ass that those fighters are going to be ready every freaking fight.
I mean, that's what I'm banking on with my fight here next weekend, right?
Oh,
this guy just thinks that he's just going to come down and beat up the kid from Utah in his home state.
I'm sure there's probably a little bit of that in there. I mean, I watched a little bit of his fight that you showed me, and the guy, he's got skill. He seems like he's going to come down here and.
I think there's a little bit of that in that. At least that's what I'm telling myself.
I think you get that when you even when I tell people I'm from Utah, you're from Utah, there's nothing out there. I'm like, no, we have some athletes out here. Like,
oh yeah,
we have some freaking athletes across the board in every sport.
I do have a point to make, but I should have done a potty break. Dude, I did it like a half hour ago and I thought I'd be good, but I'm not. I'm not good.
What? He's bailing on me already, you guys. He's bailing on me already. I think you're starting to see the transition with a lot of these guys coming in and they're starting earlier. They're starting earlier, cross training and other disciplines. Your boxing, your kickboxing, your wrestling. I think most of you guys listening will probably agree that wrestling's probably one of the best disciplines you could start with. You know, growing up, I think it teaches discipline, it teaches hard work, and then obviously learning that. And then transitioning into other disciplines. And I just think in the next 5 to 10 years, you're just going to see MMA just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I love it because we get to talk about it all the time. If you guys haven't, reach out to Zack and get your tickets for the fight, October 23rd, Steel Fist Fight Night. Reach out to Zack
I'm sorry.
That's all right. I was just telling everybody to reach out for tickets.
Oh, I'm sold out of my front row table tickets, just so you know.
Bro.
I'm sold out. So we just have the $70 tickets and then plenty of GA to still go around. So hit
GA
me up.
in the house. GA in the house. The GA section was jumping at the last fight.
Oh yeah.
It was jumping.
Man, there's so many good fights, but what was I gonna? I had a good point, but then my bladder took over. Yeah. No, but again, like I said, Wilder showed he literally became the second best in the world in a combat sport by just being an elite athlete.
Yeah.
Like it's something that I don't think that enough MMA fans or diehards understand is like, I look at, I remember it. Okay. So for example, people that grew up going around, there are people that have unique skills that are elite, right? But then there's elite athletes. Like Anderson Silva was a master of range. So is John Jones, right?
Yeah.
And he's a master of mixed martial art, Muay Thai, kickboxing, black belt and jiu-jitsu. All those things come from years and years and years and years of training.
Yeah.
He was also what set him apart from everybody else was he was an elite. I think he was an elite athlete. Like the stuff that he did in the cage was like, oh my gosh, we've never seen somebody at this size move like this before. Right?
Yeah. Yep.
BJ Penn was elite. That's why he was so ahead of his time.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't the strongest person in the world, but his athleticism was through the roof.
He had, crazy athleticism.
And watch how fast he picked up, jiu-jitsu. He was the prodigy for a reason.
Yeah. How fast did he get his black belt? 5 years?
Yeah. It was something ridiculous.
6 years. Yeah.
And tell me it's not earned. Like that guy, he's a wizard, right? So here, one thing if anybody that follows me on TikTok, you see this, I went at a guy, he made a really good list of his 1 through 20.
Okay.
MMA GOATs. He had Henry Cejudo at number 9, and he had Conor McGregor at number 17.
As an MMA GOAT.
Yeah, but he didn't have BJ Penn anywhere in the list.
Really?
And I don't
know how you can have McGregor on there.
That's what I said. And I would even put BJ Penn above Henry Cejudo for the longevity standpoint. Like Cejudo was relevant for a year and a half, 2 years.
I mean, I guess
BJ Penn was the face of the sport for almost a decade.
What's the guy's criteria? Is it just in the cage fighting, like resume, or are we talking
But then if you start here's the thing: when you compare greats, you can't compare eras. You have to compare how they stacked up against who they were fighting.
Yeah. And
to me, it's like, dude, how can BJ Penn not be in your top 20? And then you put Conor in there, who, he did the double champ thing, but he didn't defend either title. And he really hasn't done any. I mean,
if anything,
what are his? What
are his big fights other than Mendez was on short notice, right?
Mendez, Aldo, Eddie Alvarez.
Aldo was probably Aldo's probably the biggest, right?
Yeah, and Sneaky aged insanely well were his wins at featherweight over Max Holloway and Dustin Poirier. With Dustin Poirier won back, right? He that's over.
Yeah.
So, but I was like, yeah. But like, I don't have. Well, I mean, Henry Cejudo, when he talks about he's the most accomplished combat athlete in the world, that's fair, but a larger part of that's due to his wrestling gold medal, right?
Yeah.
I mean, his champ, as far as champs, he's only above McGregor because he defended each of them. But like, I hold DC's above his. I think GSP's way above his. I don't love who he won a split victory over Mighty Mouse, which was insane. It was a good fight. Yeah. And I had him winning that fight. So I'm not trying to say that he didn't deserve that, but like the TJ fight, it's like you beat a guy that basically had to kill himself to make 125. It's TJ Dillashaw, but you didn't beat him at 135. That's where he's the monster. So, he's 0-1 at that weight class.
Yeah.
And then you beat Marlon Moraes, who I think Henry Cejudo actually mentally broke Marlon Moraes in that fight. Like broke.
Oh
him.
yeah.
He's over,
you could
right?
see that.
And
yeah.
that is like, to me, that was his most impressive performance. But defending it against Dominic Cruz for me in 2020, for me, it's just like, meh.
That didn't do anything for me either.
Doesn't do anything.
Nothing
for
at
me.
all. Nothing.
If he would have beat Peter Yan, okay, different story.
Who did
you
that
beat
guy
a guy
have
that was already done?
Who was the top 3 on that guy's list?
GSP, John Jones, and Mighty Mouse.
No Valentina?
Valentina was like 13 on his list.
Dude, Valentina's impressive.
She is
freaking impressive.
I think she's I think she's in my top 8.
I was talking to and this is a little bit off subject, but kind of the same. We have a new guy that popped into our fight camp yesterday and today, and he trained down at the MMA lab in Arizona.
Oh, cool.
And he was saying, man, he's like, the level of competition that is down there and the guys that are coming in there from amateur to pro level, it's just kind of like we experienced when we went down to Extreme Couture and watching those guys train. It's like, man, these guys live a totally different world. I mean, I shouldn't say totally different world. It's just a little bit, it's a level above. Let's just put it that way. When you're getting that many guys training. So anyways, I don't know why I mentioned that, threw that in there. Just sounded good.
I think like it's interesting, right? When people talk about, oh, who's your greatest whatever of all time. And in team sports, I'm always like, I don't like the Super Bowl thing because like for quarterbacks or whatever, because it's a team sport, right?
Yeah.
Like and there's a lot of factors that go into those things. But when I'm talking about MMA, I actually feel like that's an easier one to rank because it's such an individual sport.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, your resume doesn't lie. Your wins and losses don't lie. Your fights.
I think I'm pretty
lie.
set. I'm pretty sure I'm pretty set on GSP's my pound for pound goat though, or Mighty Mouse. Those two are 1 and 2, 1A and 2A, 2B for me. Anderson was 4.
I don't hate it. Where's Valentina? Where's Amanda Nunes?
Well, I was going to say, I think
you got to have them up there.
I think I have them about 5, 6.
Where do you put Khabib?
Right behind them. 7.
Khabib's the only knock that you hear from a lot of people is he didn't really.
I factor in longevity. So we're both big Lions fans, homers, right? The greatest running back of all times right here.
Barry Sanders.
But the problem is, and the reason why like some people can have a conversation over him is he cut his career right into his prime. His longevity is the only box he didn't check.
He was, in my opinion,
did more in the time that he did.
The most dominant. Like he didn't lose a round. Like arguably in MMA, like how many of those guys have had tough fights? He one round in McGregor, maybe.
He did. No, he lost that round, but I think he gave that round away. I think he's like, we'll stand and strike for a round.
That's kind of what I was thinking too.
But he lost it. Like
from what he did to Poirier and Gaethje is like, dude, like nobody's doing that to those guys. Nobody's come even close to doing that to those guys. I mean, that holds a lot of weight with me, but I'm with you. I'm with you. But
the only reason why I put him behind is because like, look at how many title defenses Valentina does. Look at Amanda, and she's done the champ thing. That's what actually does it for me for Valentina. Amanda, if you're talking GOAT status, Valentina's more active right now, and pound for pound, I have her as the pound for pound best women's fighter on the planet right now. But if you're looking at the history of things, Amanda did do the champ thing at 2 different weight classes. And the girl that she beat to become champ in Cyborg was, I mean, that was an insane win.
That was impressive. Yeah.
I feel like I'm like massively forgetting somebody. So I go GSP, Mighty Mouse, John Jones, Anderson Silva.
Why are you putting GSP over Jones?
He didn't pop first PEDs.
Fair enough. Just curious.
He's never popped for anything. I think it's so much part of the sport that you can't just like I've talked about before. You have to have a PEDs list and a non-PEDs list. I'm like, or you could just factor in PEDs, and that's what puts Mighty Mouse and GSP above Jones for me is the PD. Same with Anderson.
Jones is going to get a lot of hate. Well, obviously with Jones's recent stuff, a lot of people are just, which is sucks because you can't discredit what he did inside the cage. Outside the cage, he's a piece of shit, but inside the cage, he's
awesome.
You can't deny he's one of the top. You just can't argue that.
Mm-hmm. The other thing is too is I don't ever recall seeing GSP going in and looking unmotivated. Like True. I feel like he always went in to do his best and perform his best. Where I felt like you watch some John Jones fight where he was just like, yeah, I'm just gonna win 3 out of the 5 rounds and call it a night.
Yeah. You know what? You know how I view GSP is kind of how like you viewed Khabib. Because when I started getting into MMA, GSP was kind of he was like, I kind of watched his career and I hated him. I didn't appreciate it because I didn't know. I didn't understand it then. You know what I mean? I just like, oh, he's just freaking wrestling. He's just holding these guys down. And like, I was the typical freaking douchebag MMA guy that just twist his dick. Like that was me.
For the record, you're still a douchebag, but
yeah, but I didn't appreciate it. Now when I go back and watch his fights, I'm like, he was pretty freaking good, man. And he's a true martial artist, and he takes it. And clearly, look at what he's doing right now. The guy's freaking ripped. He's like what, my age, 40 something years old, and he's freaking ripped.
That's where I like set GSP and Mighty Mouse above the most. I believe martial arts is their lifestyle. And I think that's what sets them above. Like Mighty Mouse is the same for me.
Yeah.
Mighty Mouse is the same type of guy for me. The only difference is he never had good rivalries with, like a Matt Hughes or a BJ Penn or, or those types of guys where GSP did. And, but I don't know. It's fun, but I feel like that's like the
after seeing GSP and Khabib next to each other on stage, sized them up against each other, who do you think would win in their prime?
In their prime?
In their prime.
I still think Khabib wins. I think Khabib smishes him. I don't think there's anything you can really do to just stop his. Here's the big question. But here's the thing. Conor knew what he had to do. Poirier knew what he had to do. Gaethje knew what he had to do. And all of them is, you cannot get your back on the cage because as soon as you did, he's going to put you on the cage and then he's going to take you down and it's over. Like as soon as your back's on the cage, you've lost that round. No and ifs or buts.
Gaethje had a little success with that leg kick in that first round, and then it just pissed Khabib off, and he takes him down.
But GSP doesn't have the power that Gaethje does.
True. I just curious. After seeing him sized up, I'm like, dude, Khabib is freaking huge, man. I mean, he's a little chunky. You can tell he's a little chunky.
He's eating all the tiramisu now.
Yeah, you can tell he's throwing down on some food. But yeah, that would be one as a fan that I would love to see. But we're gonna miss it. What else we got to talk about? We're gonna talk about Chuck Liddell.
We'll transition from John Jones to Chuck
Liddell. We had a domestic violence issue with John Jones. It's funny. I got on Twitter last night. I couldn't sleep. If you noticed the time I sent you that message, I couldn't sleep very well last night. But I saw a lot of people. Oh, keep that same energy for Chuck Liddell as John Jones before all the stuff came out, and it's like it's not the same situation. Like in my opinion, from what has come out, it just sucks. The media just sucks, and I get sucked into it too because I posted it and I'm like, oh man, domestic violence. Come on, Chuck. I didn't really say anything bad. I didn't really accuse him of anything, but I kind of get sucked in when you see something like that. You automatically assume that that's what they did. And then he puts out the statement that he made that it was his wife, and he was trying to keep it personal and keep it close to home. And when I first heard that, I went, BS. That's a nice cover up. And then like we talked and then I had a conversation with other people, and it's like, dude.
You know what? I've taken some heat on some things for somebody that I cared about just because I didn't want them to take any of the heat.
Yeah. Well, it's his family. He's trying to keep it private. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't want it to get out. I get that. And
but you also can't ruin your legacy and by the way, Chuck Liddell is a well-known hard partier, all the cocaine, all the alcohol.
Have you ever read his book?
Yeah. No, but I've seen excerpts of it.
he was partying like the night of the fight. Like Dana would have to go drag him out of the room.
No, yeah, he would. They would talk about him like doing lines of cocaine before he'd step on the scale for weigh-ins and stuff.
Yeah. Dana'd go in his room and he'd have a room full of girls in there and he's just partying all night. Like
I didn't know get taped up, bro.
I didn't know he got let go by the UFC.
Yeah, he did.
Because he had some problems. He came out and said he was trying to. It's just, I get it, the domestic violence thing. We don't need to see it at all. We definitely don't need to see it in MMA.
Well, I just think it should be a zero tolerance across the board for professional athletes.
If you're a professional athlete and you're on that big of a stage and you are found guilty after the hey, the story comes out, not by the public eye. Hey, he was arrested. We're going to accuse him because now we're finding out it was his wife. And it just sucks that people's career are being ruined because of the media. It's like,
right.
The media is not talking about anything else now, but they want to talk about that.
Right.
Yeah. Don't talk about what's happening with the Southwest airline pilots or any of that other stuff. Let's talk about Chuck Liddell. And domestic violence goes both ways. I mean, it happens to both. I had a similar situation. I spoke with Jen. You're still banned from Facebook, but Jency and I, the Fighter and Writer podcast lady, we kind of got into a little discussion on Facebook, and we took it private because we kind of didn't want some stuff to get out. And very great conversation, and she had some good points. And it's
not something to be joked about or made light of.
It really isn't.
And it sucks and whatever. And there's usually alcohol and something involved that clouds somebody's judgment. But that's where you still have to take responsibility.
It takes two. And I know there's situations where one or the other might lean towards the other way, but at the end of the day, dude,
how does it, Kira, let me just ask, how does it take two?
I don't know how much I want to say on air. I've just seen situations, not my situation. I've just seen situations where a close friend of mine went through some stuff with a now ex-wife, and I seen the way that they interacted with each other. And even though he had gotten physical in the past with her, I saw some of the interactions she had with him. And I'm not agreeing with what he did by any means, but if I was a judge, I would slap her on the hand just as hard as I slap him on the hand. Like she was just as guilty as he was, in my opinion.
Because I have a friend who got caught.
But there is situations where
they weren't married.
Yeah.
Right. But he got caught fooling around with other girls. And she kind of set him up and invited him over, and he didn't know that she knew or whatever, invited him over and made him feel all relaxed. And then she proceeded to smack the crap out of him. And he covered up. He's a fighter.
Yeah.
Covered up, took his beating. Right. And then when he had enough, he separated himself, got on the other side of a table and said, "That's enough." And she came around and she went at him, and she actually scratched his eyeball with her nails and was like trying to claw his eyes. And he separated again, and he dialed 911, and he said, "I will hit call if you don't stop." You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
So part of it though, that when you say it takes two, there is never a scenario in any way, shape, or form, because all it took from him was one punch and her lights are toast, right?
Yeah. What I meant by it takes two is he did something to trigger that. I'm not agreeing with the emotion that she exerted, but there's usually a backstory to it as all I'm saying. And like I said, I'm not agreeing with that type of stuff at all, but I just like that. or would appreciate more information coming out on things like this. Dude, I just listened to you need to listen. There's a Joe Rogan podcast that just came out. There was a guy on there and his lawyer that this guy did 24 years in prison for a murder he did not commit.
Yeah.
It's crazy. He met up with the cop that arrested him after he got out, and the cop remembered him. And he's like, what? He's like, I thought you were, I thought this was over with. He's like, I told the DA in the beginning that they had the wrong guy. Like he told the district attorney, the arresting cop told them that they had the wrong guy and they stuck with it. Our judicial system is
questionable at times.
Very questionable at times.
Well, this was a fun tangent.
Yeah, it's kind of going off today. Anyways, I just hate seeing people's personal lives being destroyed because of social media. I mean, I know you're a public figure and I get it. You're in the public eye and that's part of the process. I just hate to see it. I hate to see the John Gruden thing. I think that's just,
oh my gosh. Don't even get me started. Time out. So I don't know who made the call on that. It sounds like he said he stepped down because he pretty much knew what was coming, right?
He was being forced out.
The owner of the Raiders,
yeah,
Mark Davis, should have all of his emails gone through.
Everybody should,
right? Mark Davis, because ultimately the buck stops with him. He's the owner of that franchise, right? And every email, and if he ever called a player a lazy whatever or anything, this and that, he should lose his team because you'll find those emails in there.
You can't tell me an old white man like that.
1 billion %. After the issues that his father had with Eric Dickerson and Marcus Allen, and dude, come on, man.
I'm sorry, but
because I say
we
this too. Just because he said it, and that wasn't even bad. You have a bunch of black people being like, I was ready to be all mad about it, and then I found out what he's being let go for, and they're like, are you kidding me? That's not even offensive,
dude. I haven't been in an NFL locker room, but I have been in the Marine Corps, and I worked for a trucking company. Go spend some time in a Marine Corps infantry unit, or go spend some time in an NFL locker room and listen to how those guys are talking. It's a different world, man. Yeah. Like, those guys aren't sensitive. They're not getting upset because somebody's telling, jokes. And I was thinking about it last night. I'm like, man, when I grew up in elementary school, you had to have thick skin. Elementary and junior high, everybody was getting made fun of. You just had to have thick skin and be able to fire back. And everybody was friends. Everybody got along. But
think about this.
Yeah.
John Gruden was the general manager and head coach of a football franchise with the first openly gay active player on his roster.
Yeah. He
that's who he was.
I'm sorry, but if you're playing in the NFL, there may be some closet racists in there. That crap doesn't exist there. It's just not there. There may be some guys, I'm sure there's a small percentage of it. Owners,
but remember
Jerry Jones.
Remember the Steelers, they came up with the Rooney rule because the Rooneys were the oldest, whitest dudes in the league, and they hired Mike Tomlin, and they always went out of their way. Yeah. Which is great to give their former black players and stuff a place to coach. They got Tony Dungy into coaching, and look at the effect that's had. He was a Steeler. Instead of focusing on the bad, they should just look at the whole picture and some of the good too.
I mean, at the end of the day, what do sports do? It brings us together. It brings us all together. It's something.
Name a time this country is more unified than the day after 9/11.
You can't. You freaking can't.
The goosebumps in at Yankee stadiums and at Met Stadium and stuff like that. It was unmatched, right?
It's all these. I shouldn't say it's all the people, but typically the people crying about this stuff have never left their hometowns. They've never seen what a Magna looks like, or a Chicago, Illinois, or a New Orleans looks like. They've never experienced that stuff. They've never experienced a third world country and how those people live, but they want to whine and cry because somebody calls them a bad name, or, they get offended by every little thing. Just, anyways, we don't need to keep talking about that.
Welcome to Soapbox Hour.
Soapbox Hour. We've had some time to think about all this stuff. Hey, we have some really good podcasts coming up this week. We need to get a time on Thursday for Steve and Lucas too, Thursday night. We have Steve Sharp and Lucas Montoya are going to come on together to talk about their fight October 29th. And I'm telling you guys,
I don't know about y'all, but like, that's my main event for that night.
That is, I mean, you and I both have personal relationships with both guys, and we've talked to them, and I know some of the conversations, and I'm not going to say what they've said to each other, but I promise you guys listen to this. It's not going to be Steve and Dunkel. It's actually probably going to be a lot of the opposite, because I know these guys have a ton of respect for each other, and they're both competitors. So please tune in. And then we got Mio Strong on Friday. We got Kent Mafaleo on Friday. Andres Toro on Friday. Yeah.
Big day Friday.
Big day Friday for fighter spotlights. Should we jam through this card? I got to be done by, just so you know, by 4:30, because I have my class.
That's perfect. Yeah. I just had a couple of thoughts. I mean, overall good card. We were so right about so many things. Damon Jackson of Charles Rosa.
Oh, dude, that spinning elbow though. That was Joel Harrowless.
My
boy, Plant Daddy.
Let's call that the Harrow.
He told me he's going to teach me that move.
I'm not scared.
You probably shouldn't be, because I probably can't move my feet to get there. Dude, I have the hardest time. I don't know why I'm going to vent to you on this, but we do assault bike sprints on Tuesdays, right, in the morning. And it's 10 rounds, 20 seconds, all out. And then we have to do these freaking ladder drills for like 5 minutes afterwards. Dude, I can't do them. I'm like done. And I know why I can't do them, but it sucks. Horrible.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'm a nutrition guy. You'd think my nutrition would be a little bit more in order to be able to perform.
You'd think.
And it wasn't. And I don't know if you didn't see it because it was on Facebook, but I may have been talking a little trash to Kent and Julian about being able to beat him in running. And Kent apparently used to run like a 4.640 in high school.
Oh, you could just tell the way he moves. That boy was an athlete.
Julian, I've heard Julian's really fast too, but hey, you know what? I'm going to talk a little trash. Why not? All right, let's jump through this card real quick. Steve Garcia, Charles Ontiveros, we nailed that one. Lupita Godinez, we nailed that one as well. I thought it was going to be a little more competitive, honestly, but dude, watch out for Lupi. She's legit.
She doesn't just beat girls, she takes their soul.
She is aggressive. She moves well. She's strong. Yeah. Who else we got? Damon Jackson. We were right on that one. Charles Rosa, Alexander Romanov.
He's a beast. Vandermeer did some okay. He did some okay things, but never enough to make it interesting, unfortunately. We killed the Chris Gutierrez fight.
Chris Gutierrez, we nailed that one. And we said
it's tough.
Colares is freaking that guy is tough, man.
Underdog special. Maria Alvakova. Cash
it. Ooh, her stand-up is legit.
She's violent.
She's only 24.
I feel like we were right on Tim Elliott, and I feel like he was lazy. Did you watch that fight?
I did watch it. So I don't hate the call at all.
No, I don't hate the call. I thought that Tim Elliott thought that he was up 2 rounds to nothing, and he knew he was fine on his back for the third, and he just gave it away. And it's like, well, you idiot. Actually, you weren't up 2 rounds to nothing. It was 1-1 going into the third.
Yeah.
And you needed to win that round, get off your back, which he could have at any point. And he showed that when there was like 15 seconds left. He's like, oh, I should probably not end this round off my back, and got up. That was a little annoying.
Loved James Krause's dude. This is why, and you and I talk. He's one of our favorite coaches. Like,
he's the man.
You could see that guy's passion, man, in the way when he coaches his athletes. I freaking love that. Randy Brown, Jared Gooden, I think we both. Oh, you had Jared Gooden on that one, didn't you?
No, I had Randy Brown. I was all
We
over
both were on Randy Brown.
The guy. I'm not picking a guy that misses weight by 4.
Hey, I think we slept on Marina Rodriguez a little bit. We underestimated her. I think I overestimated what Dern was going to bring in to the stand-up. I thought that maybe she was improving a little bit. Not gonna bode well if she doesn't clean that up very well.
So here's where I was wrong. In the second round, Mackenzie Dern got her down and had her in a bad position with 4 minutes left in the round.
Yep.
I had told myself, and I believed that at that point, if Dern ever at any point, if Dern got her down and got into a position, it was the fight was over.
Should have been.
And Rodriguez survived the round. I think that mentally broke Mackenzie Dern in that fight. Because Mackenzie's never not been able to finish once she gets the fight to the ground like that. If she gets the fight to the ground like that and takes her back or something, the fight's always been over.
Always.
And so she's almost done herself a disservice. She was so elite at jiu-jitsu. It's not like she could hang out and do like 8 professional fights in the LFA, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's going to fight her. She has too dominant of a skill set for up and comers.
Yeah.
But now she's got to a point too where her striking lacks so much.
Yeah.
That strikers will fight her all day. Because it's gotten better, and I give her credit. She's gotten better every single fight. It's gotten better. But she was levels below Rodriguez on the feet. And every round starts on the feet. And you have to exert a ton of energy to get it to the ground.
At that top level, yeah. She's probably going to beat some of those bottom girls, but she gets up there at the top of that division, she's not going to be able to hang with some of those girls up there. I think until she starts, as she grows in the sport, I think we'll see her clean that up. And I still think she's talented.
Yeah, for sure. I'll be right out.
I was just getting ready to look at that division because I wanted to see who was up at the top. Yeah, I mean, you got Rose champ, right? Whaley, Joanna, Carla Esparza. I don't see her beating any of those.
I think she could beat Esparza. I think Mackenzie Dern could beat Esparza. I think her jiu-jitsu could beat her.
Esparza's a pretty damn good wrestler.
She is, but she's also...
You might be right on that one. Yeah, I'm just... The women's division's getting sneaky good, man. Those strawweight fly, man, this division, there's some girls coming up too. I love it. All right, what else do we got?
That's it.
That's all we got.
That's all we got today.
We got Thursday. We'll nail down a time, but I think it's going to be in the evening because that's the only time they can do it.
Yep.
We'll let you guys know. And then Friday, we have 3 fighter spotlights scheduled for Friday.
Sweet.
All right.
Roger that.
Thanks for listening to us rant. Go subscribe. Oh, whoa. Weren't you going to make an announcement?
Oh, yeah. So our good friend, Dalton Jensen, has purchased 2 tickets to my fight, $85 VIP table tickets, to come and watch Steel Fist on October 23rd, and is giving them away to people. Let's see.
2 table seats.
2 table
VIP
seats. VIP
table seats.
Yep. Cage side table seats. So all you have to do is go follow at Dalton Jensen on Twitter to be entered in to win. And we will draw for them next Monday on the podcast.
For those of you guys listening, we will make a post.
Yep.
We'll put all the links in there and everything.
And also, Cole Fast will be coming in and punching me in the stomach on Friday. We're
going to do that on Friday too?
He had a test. So, yeah.
Aleko paid up on his bet for me too.
Good.
I don't want to throw him under the bus, but he picked Wilder to win and bet me 50 push-ups. He paid up.
He got off easy.
Right on. Shout out to Mrs. Pointer. Happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday. Leko's mom,
happy birthday. And we will see you guys on Thursday night. We out.
Peace.